Retirement doesn't usually fall apart all at once. There's no dramatic collapse. There's no single bad decision. Instead, it happens quietly. Little things creep in, small compromises take over. Unnoticed habits, unspoken pressures, and years later, people look back and say, I don't know exactly when it happened, but this isn't the retirement that I imagined having. So today, folks, we're going to talk about the 5 things that quietly ruin retirement. Not because people are careless, but because no one warns them in time. Folks, if you're already retired, this video can help you course correct. And if you're planning retirement, this may actually save you years of frustration. Welcome back. By the way, my name's Brian, and on this channel, we do real retirement talk. Not the brochure version, not the fantasy, but the reality people actually experience once the paycheck stops. So if you're planning retirement and you want clarity instead of stress, I think you're in the right place. Let's get into the first thing that quietly ruins your retirement. Number 1, carrying work urgency into retirement. Most people, they don't realize this, but retirement doesn't automatically slow you down. You spend decades living by deadlines, work schedules, performance, productivity, and then one day work ends. But the urgency doesn't. You wake up feeling like you should be doing something, but you're not sure what. So you fill your days, overcommitting to things, saying yes way too often, staying busy just to feel useful. And suddenly, retirement feels just as rushed as work ever did. And here's the problem. Urgency has no place in retirement. Retirement is supposed to be governed by intent, not pressure. But many retirees, they never slow down long enough to learn how to live without the constant pull of what's next. If you don't consciously release work urgency, it quietly steals your peace, your joy, your presence, and it replaces it with restlessness, low-grade stress, a constant feeling of, I should be doing more. Retirement doesn't need to be busy to be meaningful. And what makes this even harder is that most people don't realize they're doing it until something else sneaks in. Number 2, letting comparisons set the standard. I talk about comparison a lot because it really is that destructive. Comparison is one of the most destructive forces in retirement, and one of the quietest, really. You don't even notice it at first. It sounds like, hey, they're doing an awful lot of travel lately. They seem more comfortable than we are. Did they upgrade again? Maybe we should. Here's the danger. Comparison turns someone else's life into your measuring stick. And that's a game you can't win, folks, because you don't know their finances. You don't know their stress level. You don't know what they sacrificed. Yet slowly, comparison creates pressure where none's needed. People who were perfectly content suddenly feel behind. People who were secure start second-guessing everything. Folks who are grateful start chasing more. Retirement doesn't get ruined by lack of. It gets ruined by never feeling like enough is enough. The moment you let someone else define success for you, you hand them the control over your peace. Number 3, ignoring emotional retirement. This one surprises a lot of people. Most retirement planning focuses on money, but very little attention is given to emotional retirement. Work provided more than a paycheck. It gave you structure. It gave you identity. It gave you validation. It gave you social connection. And when that disappears, many retirees feel something they weren't expecting. Emptiness, temptation, a quiet sense of loss, really. And because no one talks about it, people think something is wrong with them. Folks, nothing's wrong with you or me or anybody else. You didn't retire from work. You retired from a role you played for decades. If you don't replace that with purpose, with meaning, contributions, retirement can quietly turn into boredom, or worse, dissatisfaction. The goal isn't to stay busy. The goal is to stay engaged on your terms. Number 4, overprotecting money instead of using it. Well, this is a big one. Some retirees, they don't overspend, they underspend out of fear. They saved responsibly, they planned carefully, they did everything right. But once they retire, fear takes over. What if the market crashes? What if our health care goes up? What if we live longer than expected? So money becomes something to guard, not use. And years pass, trips get postponed, experiences get delayed, memories get deferred. Here's the hard truth. Money that never gets used doesn't serve its purpose. That doesn't mean being reckless. It means being intentional. Retirement isn't about dying with the biggest balance. It's about living well with what you save. If fear controls every decision, retirement slowly shrinks. Number 5, postponing life until later. This might be the quietest retirement killer of all. Oh, I'll do that next year. We'll travel when things settle down. Once we feel more comfortable, you know where this is going. But later isn't guaranteed, folks. Health changes, energy changes. Hey, life changes. Too many retirees look back and realize they waited for a perfect moment. That never came. Retirement is not a holding pattern. It's not a waiting room. It's a chapter meant to be lived now, not someday. The greatest regret I hear about money? I don't. It's more about time. So let me bring it all together here. None of these things ruin retirement overnight. They work quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. But the good news is this: every one of them can be corrected. You can slow down intentionally. You can stop measuring yourself against others. You can rebuild your purpose. You could use money wisely, not fearfully. Choose now instead of later. Retirement isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. When your time, your money, and energy point in the same direction, folks, peace is going to follow. So if this video struck a chord with you, let me ask you something. Which one of these things showed up in your retirement, or which one caught you by surprise? Drop a comment below. I promise you I read every single one of them. And if you're planning retirement or you're already living it and you want clarity instead of noise, make sure you're subscribed to Retired Under Budget, because retirement doesn't need to be louder, faster, or bigger. It needs to be yours. Folks, I post calm, practical guidance for real-life retirement. I'd like to thank you, everybody, for spending some time with me here today, and I'll see you in the next one.